Welcome to Housework with Suzanne, where I do stuff in my house and try to yap at the same time about things on my mind. And today I will talk about worldview and why it is important to know that you have a worldview, how narrow or wide it is, and what influences it. And I will take the Marius case as a starting point. The Marius case in Norway is the case where the son of the crown princess has been on trial after violence, rape, and so on. And that case has been heavily covered by the media. And although we have not been allowed to see everything from that case, we have seen enough for me as a person educated, as someone who can supervise the court. It's enough for me to say that there's a lot of very worrying things going on there. And what has happened in the Marius case is that if we are to trust that it's fairly accurate what the media has been quoting from that court case, it has been used a lot of concepts and words and theories that does not fit on the age of Marius and the length of his relationships. And that is worrying to me, because what I read in the newspaper is like reading my own old Twitter account. I used to be very active on Norwegian Twitter with spreading information about abuse, violence, domestic violence, rape, and so on. But to understand something you read, when you want to learn something new, you have to spend a lot of time understanding it. And here is where the worldview comes in. So what I know from back then when I had my old Twitter account on Norwegian Twitter, what I know from back then is that a lot of people were not able to understand what I was saying, and the reason why they didn't understand it was that I just didn't use time on it to widen their worldview before they read what I was writing about. So when I was writing about theories about violence and abuse, domestic violence, I was referring to, for example, 30-year-long relationships. And you can't take the concepts and words and theories from 30-year-long relationships and apply them to 3 weeks long relationships or 3-year-long relationships. But this is what seems to have been happening in the Marius case, that everyone involved there, from the police, lawyers, judges, and so on, they have taken concepts that can't be applied to such a young person as Marius is, and such short-lived relationships he had with his exes. But they have done that. And what I know is that the misunderstanding happening there when people do that, when they take the concepts from one thing and they just place it onto a very different thing, what happens is that somebody is thinking that they know enough from before to understand things without using time on it. If your worldview is that you are so great at what you do, or if your worldview is that you are not great at all, so you need to read up more, that will give you 2 widely different interpretations of something you read. If I believe that I am such a good cook that I can just read the ingredients list of Vossafor. No, this is not a paid partnership. I actually had to pay for this package of Vossafor myself. And I'm gonna eat it. If I believe I'm a very good cook and I just read the ingredient list of Vossafor, and I just say, oh, okay, so beef, a couple of sheep, a pig, and a goat. Okay, I can just chuck those animals into a pot and I can just stir it and I can cook it, and there I will get Vossafor. Everybody understands that that won't result in Vossafor. Vossafor is a type of sausage, and it's a profession to make sausages. The people who have made this Vossafor, they have a profession. They are professionals. But if I have a view of myself and the world that I'm an amateur on sausages, I have never worked in a sausage factory. So if I want to make Vossafor, I have to ask for example, have to call Vossafor, and I have to ask them, can I come to you and be educated by you in how to make Vossafor? And that will take me some years. If I have that view of myself, it's much more likely that I in the future will be able to make Vossafor. But if I have a view of myself that I am so good at making food that I can just read this ingredient list and I can just stir in a pot and I will have Vossafor tomorrow, I will probably never, ever, ever make Vossafor. And the same thing goes for violence, abuse, theory, concepts, and so on. If you assume that you're a very good lawyer, so you can just read one book and then you understand everything, you will make that mistake, that you take concepts meant for 30, 40, 50-year-long marriages and you apply it on a 5-month-long relationship. And the result of that is that you won't see the seriousness of the violence in that 5-month-long relationship, and you will need to see the seriousness in the 50-year-long relationship, because you are mismatching the theories and concepts and words. I have, during my life, suffered a lot of trauma, a lot of stress, a lot of physical illnesses and injuries. And this is something that has narrowed down my worldview. Because I so easily am overwhelmed with rage and with sadness and with grief and with fear. So I noticed this on myself very well, that the first time I read something or listen to something that is new to me, or fairly new to me, or even old to me, I have problems with reading it. I can notice it, that the anger welling up in me now makes me incapable of understanding what I'm reading. Okay, I have to calm down before I read it again. And then I maybe have to read it 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, and I have to go through it again and again and again. I have this Nemesis video on YouTube that I, after a while, started using as a test for this. And that is a video by, it's a role play with Frank Yeomans, where he is having a role play session with an actress playing a borderline patient. And I have tried for years to listen to that video. And I never get through it. And the reason for that is that it triggers me so much. So the first time I listened to that video, I just wanted to take my computer screen and just throw it out the window. And if I then believed that I were perfect in my capability of understanding things, I would have assumed that the only correct response to viewing that video was to chuck my computer out the window. But because I know that, no, I have a lot of things going on with me and in my life that affects my worldview, I know that, okay, close the computer, take a break, try again. And the next time I tried to watch that video, I could watch it a bit longer. And then I bumped into the same problem. I just couldn't do it. The fear and anger and sadness just, okay, close the computer, try again on a later time. And then I did it again, and then I did it again. And it has gone years, and I have still not been successful in watching that full video. So for me, I am just using that as a test to check how narrow is my worldview now. Is it wider? Is it wider? Yes, it is becoming a bit wider, a bit wider, a bit wider. I can tolerate a bit more before I just, no, this is the conclusion. This is what we have to say about this. This is the final world. And this happened also to a lot of people who read my old Twitter account, and I know that because they told me. And I know that the most typical mistake was to not understand that domestic violence is something that is most serious in long-term relationships. And by long-term relationships, we are talking about 10, 20, 30, 50 years. That's long-term. If you're married for 50 years, you have a long-term relationship. If you're married for 3 years, you don't. You were planning on, maybe, a long-term relationship. You went into the relationship for it to be a long-term relationship, but it's wildly different. 3 years versus 50 years is wildly different. And that was the mistake a lot of people did when they read my Twitter account. And I see that that same mistake is being done in the court, in the Marius case. So I have just been blabbering on here for soon 14 minutes, and I cannot remember how I started, so I have to end it soon. But so this is important to know, that your worldview is what decides how you interpret something you read or listen to or watch. And there are different things influencing that worldview. And if you have a view of yourself and a worldview that says that you are perfect, so you don't have to listen to other people, you don't have to watch things again, you don't have to read things again, you just can read it once and understand it, then you will understand this much. But if you have a worldview and a view of yourself that says that I am not good at this, so I have to read it again and again and again and again, then you have a chance that you will understand this much because you take it slow. But, of course, if you think you're too much of a loser, so you can't understand anything, you might give up and you don't even try. And your worldview is constantly influenced of the world around you. So if you're in an accident and you end up in hospital, you will be so scared, you will be so stressed, you will be in so much pain that you have no capacity to understand other people, what they are saying to you, because you have just been in an accident. So you just, what? I don't understand anything of what is going on. And if you're subjected to trauma, you also will become this. And if you're stressed, or you have a lot on your plate, your worldview also becomes narrower. But the most scary thing is that if you get a lot of applause, if you are in a high pay grade, if you are famous, if people want to use your services all the time because you are so well known for what you do, your worldview also narrows, because you start to see yourself as somebody who is so incredibly good at doing things. And I think that is what is going on in the Marius case. That the people involved there are, some of them are probably too stressed, have too much on their plate, and just wants to get it done. But that some of the people involved, the most famous lawyers, for example, they are so famous, they're so well known, they have such a high pay grade that they have lost contact with the fact that they have to use time on what they are doing. They have to read and read it again, and they have to watch and watch it again, and they have to listen and listen again. So yeah, let me end it there. I fear that the Marius case is showing us that the police and the court system have severe problems with managing their own worldviews at work.